Thank you, Jeff. It is a great pleasure to be here today representing the Commercial Real Estate Network, also referred to as CREN. CREN was established in 1999 as a service of the Capital Association of Realtors and caters exclusively to the needs of realtors who are engaged in the practice of commercial real estate brokerage and leasing throughout the Illinois capital area. Our mission statement is to promote and cooperative transaction of commercial real estate business in the capital area through education, information, networking, and open exchange of timely, accurate property information. At this time, I would like to recognize our association president, Don Cave. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Mayor J. Michael Houston. J. Michael Houston became the 23rd mayor of Springfield, the city of Springfield, on April 29, 2011. He has previously held the positions of chairman, president, and CEO of Town & Country Bank. In February of 2009, he retired from the bank and was named chairman emeritus. Prior to that, Mr. Houston served for approximately 16 years at Bank One, Illinois, as the senior vice president and was responsible for the investment management group in Central Illinois. He previously served as the mayor of Springfield from 1979 to 1987. Mr. Houston served on the Western Illinois University Board of Trustees for 16 years until last month, including 4 years as chair. A Springfield native, Mayor Houston's community involvement runs deep. He is former chairman of the board of St. John's Hospital and twice a former chairman of the board of the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and he continues to serve on both boards. He is the past president of Downtown Springfield, Inc., and has served on the board since DSI was organized. Mr. Houston, along with Sangamon County Chairman Andy Van Meter, worked tirelessly for years on rail consolidation in Springfield, and to their credit and hard work, in December of 2012, the city was granted a record of decision to consolidate high-speed rail along the 10th Street corridor, a major milestone for a project that we will complete this decade. Without the commitment and persistence of these men, that decision may never come to pass. Mr. Houston received his bachelor's degree from the Illinois State University and his MBA from the University of Illinois at Urbana. Please join me in welcoming an individual who has provided leadership to our community during each of the last 5 decades, Mayor Mike Houston.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed their lunch as much as I did. It was certainly good. I haven't got to the dessert yet, but you know, as Sandy had mentioned, and thank you for the nice introduction. I'm the only person in the almost 150-year history of the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce to have served as chairman twice. And Jeff, I want to tell you, I worked with 2 different presidents and CEOs of the chamber, and I never got an introduction like that. That tells me that Stuart is doing something right and recognizes certain things. And Reverend McNeese, I thank you for mentioning me and in your thoughts. If there's one thing I need, it is prayers, and it's something that I really do appreciate. The Reverend was our speaker at the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast here recently and did an outstanding job. And when I think of him as an administrator at the SIU School of Medicine. But when you listen to him preach, he has more than one talent. So again, thank you for joining us today. You know, last year when I was here at this same occasion, I announced that I was having the time of my life. And whether you believe it or not, now that I'm almost 2 years into office, I am still having the time of my life. I'm really very, very grateful for my wife, Carolyn. We've been married for 46 years, that, number one, she allowed me to do this, but that she really has been very, very supportive. You know, as I start off this afternoon, for the second time, I have the privilege of beginning this State of the City with a positive note. Our city is stronger than it was last year. It is growing and it is expanding. During the next several minutes, I will share with you an outline of an agenda that builds on the progress that we've accomplished over the past 2 years. An agenda that will continue to attract jobs, grow the economy, and create a world-class destination for visitors and tourists. To be successful with this ambitious agenda, I will continue to operate from my core belief that the responsibility of the office of mayor is to provide fiscal discipline, smaller city government, while maintaining first-rate services and integrity. As a candidate, I declared that the city must put its financial house in order. Fiscal discipline was priority one. You may recall from my report last year that the city's corporate fund, which pays for the basic services delivered by city government, such as the police and the fire department, as well as my salary, had an average daily balance that was a negative $3.5 million a day for the 220 working days of fiscal year 2011, ending on February 28, 2011. For the fiscal year ending February 29, 2012, that average daily balance was improved from a negative $3.5 million a day to a positive $729,000 a day. My term began 60 days into the fiscal year, and in spite of this, we were able to generate a swing of $4.2 million a day for the entire fiscal year in the remaining 10-month period, at the same time that the state was slowing down its payments to us. Today, I report that for the fiscal year ending this past February 28th, the average daily balance in the corporate fund was a positive $2.8 million a day. We have a management team in place that is managing city government, and it is managing the budget. This team has literally turned around the financial condition of the city in a very, very short time frame. I want you to understand this. I am not saying that we have solved the city's financial problems, but I do believe that we have turned the corner. Whether you're the police chief, the fire chief, or the director of public works, you are held accountable for your budget as well as running your departments on a daily basis. Responsible city government requires responsible budgeting. It is the ability to manage a budget that determines success from a financial point of view. For the second year, we presented a balanced budget to the City Council. The encouraging response was that the City Council literally approved the budget as it was presented, and it was approved on the consent agenda. Now, part of the reason for its approval without amendments or debate was that the budget did not propose costly new programs or costly equipment purchases. It isn't that we don't need equipment and vehicles, because we do, particularly in our police and our fire departments. The reason that we did not propose new programs and only a minimal amount of new equipment was simply we did not have the funding. Now, priority two, smaller city government. Last year when I spoke, I focused on the importance of headcount in city government, particularly on the impact that headcount has on our corporate funds, which pays for the basic services. I described that personnel and fringe benefits make up between 94 and 95% of the expenditures of the two largest departments in the corporate fund. Those two departments are the police department and the fire department, which account for almost 70% of the $115 million of corporate fund expenditures. So it is imperative that we responsibly control our headcount. As of this past February 28th, we have 100 fewer employees than what we had on February 28th of 2011. In our current budget, we estimated that our current fund revenues would grow by 3.26%, which amounts to $3.6 million, and that our expenses would grow by 3.06%, or $3.4 million. Now, even with a reduced number of employees, our personal services and fringe benefits grew by $3.4 million. Our operating lines only grew by $31,000. So clearly, the entire expense growth was for salaries, pension contributions, and health care contributions. The budget on a line-by-line basis donates. The majority of our operating lines are lower this year than last year. One of the problem areas that we have is the unfunded liability of our police and fire pension funds. Those two funds have approximately $210 million combined. But our unfunded liability is also approximately $210 million. Now let me put that into a perspective that is easy to understand. Under state law, we must bring our police and fire pension funds to a 90% funding level by the year 2040, which I believe we can do if we continue to make the proper actuarial payments. Right now, we are approximately 50% funded in each fund. In this year's budget, we will be contributing over 61% of the fire department's payroll for sworn firefighters and approximately 46% of the police department's payroll for sworn officers. That means that we contribute over $42,000 for each firefighter and over $31,500 for each police officer. Think about that. That is a staggering amount of money. Now, we took action this year to begin addressing our unfunded public safety pension liabilities by putting an additional $1 million over and above our normal contribution from city surplus. We did that on the last day of the fiscal year, allocating it evenly between the two funds. It is a small step, to say the least, but it is the first step taken in the right direction for quite some time. The city pension obligations are a significant problem. They were not created, they have been created over a long period of time, and we will solve it with the proper funding between now and the year 2040. Responsible city government means focusing on those things that are important, and headcount is important both from a budgetary perspective as well as the ability to provide services to the people of the city of Springfield. I want to mention that I'm working to make the budget numbers more transparent. We are seeking to create a website query system that will allow the public to actively query revenues, expenses, and potentially vendor payments. We are currently in the process of researching it and working with our financial system vendor for a workable solution. Now, priority 3, maintaining first-rate city services. The city, as a result of financial problems in past years, has not invested in its streets, its sidewalks, or its sewers. Anyone who drives the streets realizes that we need to fix them. Unless your home is having problems with sewer backups or your neighborhood is flooding, you may not realize that we have a major problem with our sewers. In fact, I would say that our sewer problem is far greater than our street problem. There is no question that we have a problem. The question becomes, how do we pay to fix the problem? Responsible government means tackling problems head on and not deferring it to future generations. The truth is that we can pay to fix our infrastructure now, or we can pay to fix it later. It is not going to fix itself. We must reasonably and cautiously address the crumbling infrastructure and lay the groundwork for sustained prosperity in Springfield. The Chamber's piece in Sunday's State Journal Register on the business page did a great job of describing the situation and why it is important to fix our infrastructure problems. I have filed 4 ordinances to potentially solve the funding dilemma with our infrastructure problems, which the City Council will discuss this upcoming Tuesday at the Committee of the Whole. The first will increase the city's sales tax by 0.5% to pay for an $86.6 million bond issue and a 3-year ramp-up that will refurbish approximately 1/2 the streets in Springfield. This bond issue will pay for repairing existing streets, not building new streets. We have a total of 625 miles of streets and roads. There are 360 miles of asphalt streets. $57.6 million will go to overlay 135 miles of asphalt streets. Over $72 million will be used to repair streets, with the balance going to sidewalks, storm sewers, and traffic signals. Now, given the amount of funding needed for a work program of this magnitude, a bonding program is the best solution for paying for it over a period of time. Asphalt has an average life of 15 years, and we intend to pay for the bond issue over a 15-year period. Now, some people say that we should cut our budget to pay for this. There is no way that this city can cut its budget enough to pay for it now or at any time in the future. Our revenues for the corporate fund this year is just under $115 million. How do you begin to pay for $86.6 million of infrastructure that the city has not taken care of out of that corporate fund budget? It is simply impossible. The choice is simple. We can continue to drive on streets that tear up our vehicles and cause individuals added expense, or we can pay to fix them. Our Public Works Department estimates that if we don't do the $86.6 million program, it will cost us an additional $21 million by the year 2018 due to the continued deterioration of our asphalt streets. In reality, we can pay for it now or we can pay for it later, but we're going to have to pay for it at some point. And given where interest rates are today, it is a sensible time to issue bonds. I want to publicly thank the Chamber for supporting an increase of 0.5% in the city sales tax to pay for the $86.6 million bond issue. It is no easier for the Chamber to support an increase in the sales tax than it is for an elected official to vote to do it. But we have a major problem, and it needs to be addressed. The second ordinance would increase the city sales tax by another 0.25% to pay for the ongoing maintenance of our streets, sidewalks, and storm sewers. It is important that once we have repaired our streets, ongoing maintenance must be performed to maximize their useful life. The third ordinance will increase the city sales tax by another 0.25% to refurbish $55 million of our combined and sanitary sewers that were identified as needing to be fixed prior to the time that I assumed office. A 0.25% sales tax will produce $4.4 million annually, so it will take approximately 12 and a half years to complete the $55 million of sewer projects that have already been identified. This would be a pay-as-you-go program. It provides a long-term program to begin to deal with the problems of our combined and sanitary sewers. The fourth ordinance would authorize the city to borrow $6 million a year for a 10-year period from the Illinois EPA through the Clean Water Initiative to fix our combined and sanitary sewers. Personally, I believe that this is a superior plan for paying for our combined and sanitary sewer needs instead of increasing the city sales tax by 0.25%. But I would support doing either one because we must address our sewer needs. Each borrowing would be paid off over a 20-year period. The loans would be paid off by increasing the sewer fee by 5% per year for a 10-year period. For the average household, this would amount to less than 50 cents a month. Over a 30-year period, it would allow us to do over $100 million of sewer projects. Each loan's interest rate would be based at the rate at the time of issue of the loan and would be fixed for a 20-year period. The current interest rate is 1.93%, and while that will increase undoubtedly over time, it is a very attractive rate, and I would expect those rates to remain attractive over the next 10 years of the program. By increasing the sewer fee, we literally are putting those fees into a lockbox that can only be spent on sewers. I think it is important to advise you that if the city does not address its sewer problems, the chances are that the EPA will mandate a program that the city will have to undertake in addition to potentially being fined. A close example here in this area is the city of St. Louis. The EPA mandated the city of St. Louis to do a $4.7 billion program over a 23-year period. $4.7 billion over a 23-year period. And to make matters worse, they fined them $1.2 million on top of that. You know, one of the nice things about using the Clean Water Initiative funds is that it is a long-term program that once we have that program in place to deal with our sewer problems, we would design our program as opposed to having the EPA come in and design a program for us. And again, I want to publicly thank the Chamber for endorsing the plan to borrow $6 million a year for 10 years to increase the sewer fee by 5% for that 10-year period. The Chamber's endorsement of both ordinances is critically important because the Chamber recognizes the need to fix our infrastructure and, more importantly, the way to pay for it. I broke down the proposals into 4 separate ordinances to give the members of the City Council the opportunity to choose among the proposals. One of the things that I would ask each of you who are residents of the City of Springfield to do is to contact your alderman, whether you support this or whether you don't support this. I would ask you to contact your alderman and let them know what you are thinking, because they need to hear from you. Our infrastructure problems did not happen overnight. It was caused by the city not investing in our infrastructure. While I did not create these problems, I have offered solutions that will fix the problem and help our community grow, prosper, and attain its economic potential. Again, a responsible city government tackles problems head-on and does not defer those to future generations. Before I leave the subject of our responsibility to provide first-rate services, I want to point out a couple of impressive successes for our Department of Public Works. The department has approximately 30 fewer employees than it had 2 years ago. If you've been around the city recently, you've probably noticed that 65 dangerous and unsafe structures were torn down by our Public Works Department this winter. A year ago, at the beginning of the winter, Director Mahoney had his people trained and certified to be able to tear down structures, which the city had never done before. We removed 25 dangerous and unsafe structures using our staff last winter. Since October of 2011, when the ordinance to register boarded-up buildings was enacted, we have registered 754 structures requiring the submission of a building plan to make the necessary improvements to put those properties back into productive use and eliminate blight in our neighborhoods. Responsible city governments are innovative, and Springfield hasn't let its citizens down in this aspect. For example, last week there was media coverage of the conversion of numerous city vehicles to propane, a cleaner burning and cheaper fuel than gasoline. This is being done through grant funds at no cost to the city, and it provides an opportunity for huge savings in the cost of fuel for our vehicles. It could reduce our fuel cost by 50% if it is successful, and propane, being a cleaner burning fuel, means lower maintenance cost and the vehicles will last longer. Propane is also environmentally friendly and 90% domestically produced. Another resourceful idea was first described last year. I talked about consolidating the 4 city garage, which currently have personnel and fringe benefits of approximately $4 million annually. There are operational overhead duplication and personnel redundancies that lead to unnecessary cost and inefficiency, leaving great potential for significant savings and service improvements. I filed an ordinance to purchase a building at Capitol and Martin Luther King Drive that formerly housed Superior Walls that will allow us to consolidate our 4 city garages into a single garage. We estimate being able to save approximately $1.4 million a year when it is fully implemented. Most importantly, it will provide a safer, leaner, more efficient, and be more reliable. As I think about our community's future, the question becomes, how do we accelerate the city's growth and continue to build a stronger and better Springfield? The economy has improved, but we have experienced a different type of recovery. Unemployment remains high nationally at 8.4%, with the state of Illinois continuing to exceed the national average at 8.7%, and Springfield continuing to fall both below the national and the state unemployment rates at 7.6%. Springfield retains its position as having the second lowest unemployment rate in the state. Our private sector job numbers have recovered, but our governmental jobs have not, and will probably never recover to the level that existed prior to our economic downturn. To support our engine for growth in the private sector, I have asked Director Mike Farmer in the Office of Economic Development and Planning to work closely with the Chamber and the Q5 initiative to take our local economy to the next level. I want to focus the city on industries that will have the greatest potential for job growth and wealth generation. For Springfield, the #1 industry is healthcare, which has replaced state government as our largest employer. The healthcare sector continues to provide the most stable growth, with the Southern Illinois School of Medicine, Memorial Healthcare Systems, St. John's Hospital, and Springfield Clinic all growing their already substantial physical footprints. Because of our dominant status as a retail hub in Central Illinois, we remain a desirable location for additional retailing. The new Lifestyle Center continues construction at the intersection of Interstate 72 and the MacArthur Boulevard extension. We look forward to the groundbreaking of the Outlet Mall at the Legacy Point Town Center sometime in 2013. The White Oaks Mall is currently finishing up its $10 million renovation project and welcoming back shoppers. This year, they have already started renovating White Oaks West on the west side of Veterans Parkway. In addition, at least 3 more new supermarkets are currently undertaking locations throughout Springfield, including the new County Market at 2nd and Carpenter, the Hy-Vee on MacArthur Boulevard, and the Snooks on Dirksen Parkway. Each of these new facilities will feature additional space for supportive retail or commercial amenities and services. Responsible city government means also focusing on our downtown, which continues to be our employment and property tax basis. This past year, Springfield welcomed the Sustainable Design Assessment Team, better known as SDAT, from the American Institute of Architects. I appointed an SDAT Action Committee, which is working to bring that vision to our downtown. One of the most important points is clear. For the downtown to remain a viable part of our city, we must increase the number of people who can live there. The central area has a surplus of office space that we are working to convert to upper story residential units while maintaining ground floor level commercial space. Overall, our economy has weathered the economic headwinds, and we are well positioned for future economic growth. Tourism and conventions continues to be a dynamic and growing industry for Springfield and Sangamon County, with an annual economic impact of over $378 million, employing over 3,000 people, and putting roughly $7 million annually in taxes into the local community. History Comes Alive is gearing up for its 4th summer filled with period reenactments and musical entertainment. The historic sites in Springfield ended 2012 with nearly a 3% increase over 2011, resulting in over 1.8 million site visits to the various historic sites and attractions. The Lincoln movie continues to generate buzz in 2013 with its magnificent showing in the awards nominations and Daniel Day-Lewis's Academy Award for Best Actor. As a result, there has been renewed interest in Abraham Lincoln and a heightened interest in learning more about Mr. Lincoln by travelers around the globe. Also, I want to remind you of 2 major victories that happened this past year. As was mentioned earlier, there was a record of decision to use the 10th Street Railroad Corridor for high-speed rail, and the reversal of the decision to close our local post office's processing and distribution center, which would have meant the reduction of a large number of well-paying jobs in Springfield. We not only are not losing jobs, we are gaining jobs that are being moved to this community. In conclusion, I want to assure all of you that we are changing into a service-focused city government that collaboratively works with people and partners from the private sector to create jobs and accelerate our economy. Already, Springfield is coming back strong, and with an infrastructure plan in place, it can come back stronger and be more prosperous than ever before. Our accomplishments over the past 2 years show us that one thing is clear. We can defy the odds and deny the naysayers, and we can accomplish anything that we set out to do together. Our city will rise to meet the challenges of tomorrow and leave a foundation for future administrations. God bless you, and God bless the great American city of Springfield. Thank you.